How many times have you heard that it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill? I'm guessing that you've put a lot of time into developing the skill that you built your business around, whether you're a photographer, a real estate agent, or a welder, whatever it is. So how much time have you invested in your marketing skills? I'm Raejean Roberts with Social Media Snapshots. So today I'm talking about finding your brand voice. I'm currently reading Expert Secrets and by Russell Brunson, and he starts the book with the 5 steps that you need to become a leader. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on the first 3 because they really talk about finding your voice. So the 3 steps I'm focusing on are publishing daily, documenting your journey, and testing your material. So many people are terrified of public speaking, more than death itself. So speaking in front of a camera, pretty much the same thing. A lot of business owners would rather do anything than speak in front of a camera. So even though most of us understand that video is the future and the present, I totally get it. We don't want to do it. Like, I know that it was so hard for me when I first got on camera. My stomach was filled with butterflies. It was hanging out around my neck. I don't know which was shaking worse, my hands or my voice. It was just terrifying. And the rush afterwards, or just, I don't know if it was a rush or a drop, or it was so intense. And I'm still, a year later, more than a year later, still awkward, still, I still have my moments, I still stumble over words, it's still challenging, but it gets easier, I promise. But I try to remember that all of my stumbles, my awkwardness, all the things that aren't my favorite, that it's all part of my charm, right? It's just all part of what makes us unique. So we all have our own unique quirks and our own fears and our own thoughts and all of these things, and they all come through on the camera, and it's okay because it's all part of what makes us unique. I've been a long time proponent of publishing daily on social media platforms, but what Russell says is that he talks more about sharing your stories on a daily basis through video or a blog or a podcast. And there's a couple of reasons for this. First, it takes a while to get into the groove and to get good at something. I've heard that, the first 100 videos you do are going to be crappy, or you're going to just grow so much in that first 100 videos. So we might as well just get them out of the way. And along the way, you find your message. I know that for me, it's often kind of fuzzy. It's like, well, it's kind of this thing, but the more I talk it out, the more specific it gets and the more clear that my message becomes. And I believe the same is for probably you and most other people. I know in the book, Russell says it took him about 50 videos, so maybe he was a fast learner, or 50 podcasts. He was doing podcasts until he really kind of hit his stride. And another reason Russell Brunson says that we need to publish daily is that about publishing daily, is that we need to endure it long enough to get noticed. He talks about how often is it that we kind of hear about a show, but we don't really get into it until it's 3 or 4 seasons in, and we're like, oh yeah, this is cool, and we go back to the beginning and binge watch it. But I'm sure we all have those things, that there's podcasts or TV shows or videos on YouTube, or or certain things that are repeatable in nature, certain shows, whatever that is to you, whether it's TV or a podcast, but that we find midway through, and we kind of has to wait and let the good stuff surface to the top, so that we know that that's what we want to do. So by hanging in there and doing our show repeatedly, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or a podcast or a blog, whatever your show is, by doing it consistently and by consistently sharing your story and sharing your message, you get better at it, and you give people time to find you. So let me know in the comments, what's something cool, what's a cool show, whatever whatever platform it is that you have discovered partway through, that you found after it kind of rose to the top. I want to hear in the comments below. For me, it was the Gilmore Girls. Okay, it was like way after it was over, but I found it on Netflix. That was my rise to the top show that took me a long time to discover. So a common question that I hear, and apparently Russell does too, is the same. So it says, I don't know what to talk about. That's a common question or a common concern that people have when you tell them that they need to have a show, that they need to be publishing daily. And that's the next step, is to document your journey. So the second step in that whole finding your voice is document. So it's not about knowing all the answers or something, or producing something polished and perfect. It's about sharing your passion and sharing what you're learning and trying along the way. Russell Brunson suggests that you focus on the big result that you're passionate about, and you build your show around that platform. So I'm passionate about small business success, and that's why I focus on reading the best business books, on social media marketing, on workshopping those fundamentals to improve your business. But it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter what you do. If you make soaps, amazing skincare could be the result that you're passionate about. If you own a restaurant, you could be passionate about serving meals like Grandma used to make. Then you take your audience on that journey with you. So before we go on, be sure to subscribe to, hit the subscribe button, and so you can keep up with all the latest videos. And the last step that we're going to talk about is testing your material. As you document your journey and you publish every day, you'll discover what works, and you'll develop your stories, and so you'll find your stories, you'll develop them, you'll practice them, you'll hone in on them. I know lots of times we all have stories, but we don't always think about, oh yeah, that's a really good example of what I'm trying to say. But the more that we share our message, the more those stories come to mind. It's like we're trying to think of how to explain it. We're like, oh, it's kind of like that one time we did that one thing. So as we share our messages, that's where we find those stories that we already have experience. We're continually trying new tactics to share our stories and to share our message. So just in the process of doing what we do, we're going to have more stories. So it's really important to keep working on those, and we share those. We can see, okay, well, what worked really well. Our daily publishing becomes our testing ground. So we can see, did this work or did it not work? If this worked, will this work better? And oh, that one totally missed the mark. What can I do to adjust it, or make it better, or do I need to just disregard it altogether? So that's what we're doing in our testing grounds. Russell, he talks about a story from Dean Graziosi that he said was talking about how a comedian goes out and he writes 10 jokes, and he goes out on the stage and he tries them, and 2 of them do really well and 8 of them bomb. So then he takes goes back to the drawing board, and he keeps those 2 jokes that worked, and he writes 8 new jokes, and he goes out again and he tries this group of 10. So the 2 that worked, oh, another one works. So now he's got 3 good jokes. He goes back to the drawing board and tries 7. And he does this over and over again until he ends up with an awesome set of 10 jokes. And, so we're not, I don't know, maybe there are some comedy writers here, but most of us, that's probably not our business. But if we go back to our soap maker, maybe she learns that the messaging about ingredients doesn't really captivate her audience, but the vivid descriptions of the scents of the soaps do. So she knows, okay, so, stories about the scents, or maybe there's a story about why why she chose these scents, and maybe that story does really well with her audience. And, you can start putting together your list of stories. I have a story archive, or a story journal, I can't remember, a library, I have one of those, where we can really, or I can write down the stories, so sometimes it's like, oh, you forget things, and once in a while something triggers, oh yeah, so it's nice to keep them all in one place, and kind of, you can keep track of the ones that work and the ones that resonate with your audience. When I first started telling my story, I wanted to stick to the facts. This is, black and white. This is what worked, and it was kind of boring. So as I dug a little deeper and it got a little more personal, then I discovered that's where the magic happens. Talking about our strategies, that's where, so, we could talk about all the black and white, but when I really got close in and got, personal and shared, why this is important to me, and, the emotion was there, that's what resonates with the people I was talking to. So I was like, oh, okay, that's the magic sauce for me, right? So it's finding not only the stories, but the presentation, and, how do you share it in a way that really connects with people? And these conversations on these kinds of strategies and obstacles and successes is what's really unique about the Business Boss Book Club, because we are talking about books like Expert Secrets, and we're digging deep into, okay, well, that's great for, that's a great book, that's a great concept, but how do we apply it to ourselves and our businesses? I know when I was reading all these business books, I'm like, oh, this is awesome, but there was just so much information, and I don't know, maybe it's just the way I process, but talking it out is how things sink in, and I don't think I'm the only one. I know there's several of us in book club that feel the same way, and so I didn't have there wasn't anywhere to really have these deep discussions. Business owners are busy. Who has time to talk about that? But I found my people who are like, yeah, we feel the same way. So that's when I started the Business Boss Book Club, was so that we could have these deep discussions about the books and how they apply to our business, and we can really process and translate what we're reading into our own businesses. And then, so now we have someone to talk about it, and then I was like, oh, you know what else we need? We need a way to implement it. So, that's why there's workshops that are part of the Business Boss Book Club, so that we can take what we're learning and we can really, sit down and workshop mastermind style and just really deep dive in on how we actually implement what we're reading into our business. So that's where the Business Boss Book Club came from, and it's so exciting to have other people who are passionate about their businesses and growing their businesses and learning and implementing all the cool things so that we can scale our business, so we can move it to the level that we want. And if you are the same way, you have that same kind of passion towards your business, I'd love to have you join us. I'll share that link to the Business Boss Book level in the description, and I can't wait to see you on the inside. Bye.